talk to you. That's what I tell myself when I have to speak, because it just scares the crap out of me. But what's going to come out is still a little bit up in the air. So when Josh asked me to share, he wanted me to talk about kind of some failures that I've experienced since coaching. And I know that lots of times it's easy to see someone's journey on the outside, and even if you watch my stories, it's not the highlight reel. You see some of the crap too, but at the same time, you're not going to share all the things, right? And so I want to just share with you 3 fails, 3 lessons, and 3 blessings. Because from every failure or from every struggle, there's always a blessing that comes of it. So as I was thinking about this, I honestly had a kind of a hard time, because I grew up an athlete. Failure and missing goals and falling short, that's just normal. That's just part of, you don't win every game. You don't win every meet. That was just normal. So for me, when I entered my business, I wasn't expecting to win everything. I wasn't expecting to meet every goal. And so as I was thinking back, I'm like, okay, I can't really think of failures because I haven't attached that huge emotional connection with it. Like I feel like so many people do. You miss a goal, you feel like you fail, you feel like it's not happening as fast as you want, and you get so tied up in that it paralyzes you from moving forward and from continuing your journey and from learning from it so that you can move forward. And so the first failure that I want to talk about is, it was the first 6 months of my business. And it was when I got started and things started going pretty quickly, and I got a call from my upline who was like, hey, are you running for Elite? And I was like, I don't even know what that is. What is that? She's like, I'll hook you up with a call from corporate, and they'll fill you in because you guys are doing great. Like, it's a possibility. So at the time, when I got on a call with Arno, he explained what it was, he explained what the milestones were and the benchmarks, and we were so far off. Like, so far off that it was nearly impossible. But I was like, okay, well, these are all the things I need to be doing anyways to grow and to develop and to keep moving forward, so we're gonna push for it. And so I rallied my team, we got all pumped, we figured out how Elite Points worked and what it was gonna take, and we hustled for the rest of the year, and it came down to December, and it was the last week where they don't give you the points the last week, but I knew from the amount of people that had hit Success Club and where my volume was at, we had already hit 6-star, which was 5 stars, one of the qualifications. I knew that we had hit it. And so Mindy Wender, who's my grandma coach, doing what every awesome leader does, was doing a recognition post, and she was shouting out all of her elite leaders, and we had done it in 6 months. And so that was like a big deal. So she was shouting it out publicly, and people were seeing it. And then I got a call in January that we didn't hit it, and that something had happened, and it was my mistake, which comes from the lesson part of it. It was my mistake, and I was literally like devastated, disappointed, humiliated because she had publicly recognized our team, and then we didn't get it. And I was like, how do I even, like, I just wanted to crawl under a rock. And I remember calling my mom, and she is like the best human in the whole world and will go to bat for any of her kids. And so her mama bear came out, and she's like, she was so pissed, you guys. She was like, how could they do this to you? They after all of your hard work and everything you've done for this company, how could they? Because it was something where it could have gone either way. There was a mix-up, it could have gone either way. And they ended up kind of, I felt like they were using me to teach other people as an example. So she was so mad. She's like, you should just quit. You should just, why would you continue to work for a company that doesn't appreciate your hard work? And I was just, at the time, I'm like, yeah. And then I was like, no, that's stupid. This like brings me so much joy. But I was literally in a place of what do I even do now? How do I tell my team? How do I post on social media and be like, oh, JK, put it together, JK. And I just, you know what? I was like, okay, it is what it is at this point. Learned from it, got the lesson, okay, loud and clear. And the blessing that came out of it was we just continued to run with the momentum we had created, and the next year we became a top 10 elite team. And yeah, team inspiration! And it was such a blessing because it taught me, probably one of my biggest fears coming into this was looking like an idiot. Like, does anyone else be like, I don't want to look like an idiot? Like, I don't know. So that was one of my biggest fears, and then it happened. I was like, I look like an idiot. Like, that was so embarrassing. And when it happened, and I didn't die, I was like, okay, I could probably get through just about anything. So I learned a lot from that one. And this was the elite trip where we went to Paris, and that was so rad. So that was another blessing. The second fail happened this same year. And JD and I, if you follow my stories and you see my posts, you'll see that he is very active and we work out together. We're very happy now, but we were very, very, very close to getting divorced this year. And you might be like, well, that's the year she was going for top 10. So it must have been the business. It must have been whatever. And it would have been really, really, really easy to do that, to blame something else on our struggles. Because I was spending time on building a business. He was in the middle of vet school. And so our priorities were other places. And that's all it was we weren't making time like we needed to for each other. And we were feeling empty, each of us. And so we were this close to having a failed marriage. And because of the things that I had learned the previous probably 8 or 9 months in the business, personal growth, taking ownership, taking responsibility of your actions, of your life, of your day-to-day habits, we both turned to each other and said, we want to make this work. It's worth fighting for, and we're going to do this together. And so because of the things that I had learned, and he had already started personal development stuff too, we were able to grow ourselves, and we were able to grow together as a couple. And the blessing was obviously staying together because I love him to death. And 2 extra babies because we wouldn't have Brave or Finley if we had separated at that time. And that was such a lesson to me in the business, because I learned when I was in such a funk of when you're going through a trial like that, where you're like, okay, I've shared for so long our marriage, our relationship, people know, and now we're struggling. How do I even show up authentically? How do I share through this? When I'm feeling sad and disappointed and discouraged and feeling like a failure in life, how do I continue to show up? And that's when I learned that while I started coaching for selfish reasons, to be accountable to my own journey and for all of those things, this trial was what truly taught me, this is not about you, Micah. And even though you're struggling right now, you still have something to share. And you still have a reason to show up, because other people need you in some capacity. And my team needed me no matter what I was dealing with personally. And so I continued to show up. I'm pretty sure none of my team even knew we were struggling, because I didn't let that flow into our team and our business, because I was able to kind of compartmentalize those things. So that was a super huge lesson for me, that this business, while it is about our journey, the way that we show up and the value that we have to share in our story, I was able to share trials and share struggles and share those things without going into detail and without airing my dirty laundry. And I was able to connect with people who also were going through struggles and trials and needed support. And that was such a huge turning point for me mentally, because I realized that this was so much bigger than just me showing my 6-pack and showing my physical results. And it was about connecting with humans to better their life in whatever way. And number 3, fail. Oh yes. So this is when we were pushing for 15 star the first time. And like I said, I didn't really view this as a huge failure, but because obviously we just continued to push after that. But what I wanted to share about this was, especially within my own team, I'll have coaches that are pushing for goals, and they have a deadline, and they're like, no matter what, I'm hitting this, I'm hustling, and they'll put everything into it, and they'll miss the goal. And then instead of just readjusting their goal and continuing with that amount of hustle and urgency and focus, they sit and sulk for far too long until their business starts to crumble. They take like 29 steps backwards, and then it's so much harder to get momentum again. And so one thing, if I've done anything in my business, is I miss goal after goal after goal, you guys. Hello, number 11, 2 times. Like, if that is not the worst spot in the entire universe, I don't know what it is. So I know it stinks, and I know what it feels like, but you can feel the suck, and you can be disappointed, and you can be mad for like 2 hours. And then you're like, okay, let's get back to work. And if you can develop that mindset and that grit and that mentality, you guys, nothing can stand in the way of whatever you want in life. And the thing that I love so much about the business is that these are all lessons that the business teaches us, but they're parallel to life. When you learn how to do it in your business, you learn how to do it in your marriage, you learn how to do it in your family life, you learn how to do it in your career, you learn how to do it just in life in general. And that's why when we grow in our business, we grow as humans, we grow in life. And it's such a blessing. And the reason that I thought of this was because I had already booked our California beach house, because I was so sure that this goal was gonna get, like, I don't book a retreat until I'm like, okay, it's happening. And so I booked it. We had, I don't know, probably like 25 girls that had diamond deadlines by the same, that lined up perfectly with 15 star. And I'm like, okay, out of 25, we should at least get 15. We're solid, we'll get this. And we missed it. And so instead of like canceling the retreat and all that stuff, I had already paid for it. So I just took my family to California instead, and we made it a family vacation. And it literally, to this day, is still the trip that my 2 big kids, because didn't have the 2 little ones yet, they still talk about it. And I'm like, maybe that was supposed to happen. Maybe we were supposed to miss that goal because my kids needed something from that trip. And it's just, that's life, you guys. From every missed goal, from every failure, from every downfall, you can find goodness. You can find something to learn from it. You can get something positive out of it. And if you train your brain to see the good and to find just something positive out of it, no matter how bad it is, and I know there's some terrible trials that people go through, but the trial is put in your life for a reason. I truly believe that. And if we can learn from it, and if we can share it and use that to help others who are probably going through similar things, then we can make such a huge impact, and this business will truly transform you, and it will transform the lives of so many others. So keep going, you guys. It's so worth it.